It has not stopped raining. You look like you got some sun.
Honestly, a rare bit of sun has come through. Do you know what it's like? It's like that bit in the, look, Mr. Frodo,
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah.
king has his crown again. And then very quickly it just goes, yeah.
Yeah.
That sound.
Yeah.
That's basically what just, yeah.
Yeah.
See, it's going already.
Welcome to Late of the Rings, a podcast dedicated to Lord of the Rings the card game. My name's John, and here's my co-host. He breathes so loudly I could shoot him in the dark. It's Emery.
Hello, John.
Hello, sir. How is that asthma?
Yeah. It can prove treacherous when you're trying to sneak through forests and stuff, which I have been warned by the authorities to stop.
Yeah, exactly. Oh dear. How are you, sir?
I'm not too bad. You know what? You saying that just remind that bit of the in the movie.
Yeah.
When the elves suddenly holding, the bow and arrows up at the Fellowship.
Yeah.
And he says, quite arrogantly, doesn't he? He shot him in the dark.
Well, that's Haldir for you, isn't it?
Haldir, that's his name, yeah. But then Gimli does the best angry face in the world. It's such a good face. He does almost like a little.
But is that the point where he does his insult? No, it's a bit later. He does his insult. I think that's when they're waiting at the gates of Lorien. Like, are they going to let them in or not? And he does
It's around the same time.
Yeah.
When Aragorn says that was not so
exactly.
courteous.
Yeah. Actually, interestingly enough, this is how I've been spending my time. I've been researching Dwarven tongue.
I was about to ask you what you've been up to. And this is it. Okay.
Well, no, because of this Ziggle Ziggle thing. And before you ask, I haven't got to the bottom of it yet. But what I did find out is that there isn't much translated Khazad-dûm in Tolkien's work, and that subsequently I found out that for the films they sort of made it up, but not made.
Okay, hold on. So you're gonna have to remind me what Khazad-dûm is.
That's
the Dwarvish
that's the Dwarvish tongue. Yeah. So,
okay,
and then what they've made for the films is they had a linguist there, and they created what they call Neo-Khazad-dûm.
Okay.
And that line where Gimli gets very cross, that's Neo-Khazad-dûm. But I do know what it translates to. It's not very nice.
No, okay, come on.
It's, I spit on your grave. It's a bit harsh.
It is the future, you see. I'd go so far to say that it is not so courteous a thing to say. I spit on your grave. That's very old school.
Isn't it? It's a proper old school insult.
I spit upon your grave, sir. That's how people should insult each other.
In Neo-Khazad-dûm. But yeah, so I looked into some into the Dwarven tongue, but I haven't.
That sounds like a horrible experience.
Yeah, it wasn't very pleasant, but I'm no closer to solving the Ziggle Ziggle
conundrum.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Question. Riddle. Is it a riddle? Is it really? It's not really a riddle. Is it pronounced Ziggle or Ziggle? Well, that's a fine riddle, sir. Yeah, it's just a question.
What's in my pocket?
Okay, so we haven't, you haven't discovered whether it's a soft or a hard G in Neo-Khazad, or in fact in traditional Khazad.
No, exactly. I'm not giving up.
No, good, quite right.
Sorry, I don't know quite how we got here, but how are you and what have you been up to?
I'm not too bad, thanks. What I've been up to, been waiting for it to be like spring/summer.
Oh, yeah.
And it hasn't happened. So I'm sorry to go back to the weather. Very unlike people from our country. It's been cold and rainy since last we recorded. So all a bit depressing. The whole COVID thing has kind of opened up quite a lot here now. So things are semi getting back to normal, which is a bit weird.
Yeah.
Like semi getting back to normal. But, still haven't been able to go outside and enjoy, doing much stuff just because the weather's been so rubbish. So we'll get there. Apart from that, not an awful lot. I've been, I was going through my music collection.
Yeah.
And last time we spoke about David Bowie.
We did.
And I just realised I was going through. I'm a big Bowie fan, as you are, John. I'm sure some of our listeners would be too. I went through all of my stuff's digitized pretty much. I've got all my CDs are in storage somewhere and ordering vinyl, all the rest of it. I looked through my Bowie collection. No Ziggy Stardust. Like, wait a minute, where is Ziggy Stardust? This is the seminal album. And then I realised I had it on tape. It was one of those ones I had on tape for ages. And then I think I just never got around to buying like a CD or a digital copy of it at any point. Because I just, I don't know, maybe I just haven't listened to that album in 15, 20 years or whatever. And I really wanted to listen to it. So I thought, well, maybe it warrants, just a repurchase or something. And I couldn't find any digital copies of the original one at all. I could only find the remaster. So I think last time you mentioned that your friend was really annoyed that the Labyrinth soundtrack wasn't remastered or re-released. And I'm the other way around. I want to find the original version. Because I don't know, we've discussed our kind of mutual, is it a dislike or a
disdain?
Disdain for this remastering culture.
Yeah.
Which seems to have pervaded music in the last sort of 15, 20 years. Like, Ziggy Stardust, great album. If only it was mastered a bit better,
It was just the mastering that let it down, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's funny you should mention seminal albums that you seem to only own on tape. I have one of those as well. My only copy of Prince's Purple Rain is an original cassette.
As it should be. Fantastic. So you haven't listened to that album in 20 years either.
Nah, it's rubbish.
Yeah. Bang average.
So just listening to music and watching the rain then?
Pretty much. So you can imagine the kind of music that soundtracks that. How about you, good self?
Well, not a lot. I mean, it's been a few weeks since we recorded. I mean, the last episode was a behemoth to to edit and get released, and then we took a little bit of time off. And you would have thought I would have done something in that time, and I was just racking my brains to think if there was anything of interest. And the only thing that sort of popped into my head is that I bought another copy of Lord of the Rings.
The book.
The book, yeah. I mean, I do not need to own any more copies of Lord of the Rings. I think this is my 4th edition that I now own. And it's weird. The reason I bought it is later this year, they're releasing a single volume edition for the first time illustrated with Tolkien's original illustrations. Now, I'm very excited about this. So there's 2 reasons why I'm excited. One, I don't own a single edition. All my copies of Lord of the Rings are the 3 separate books. So it's like, okay, great. I will buy this edition and that'll be my 1 volume version of the book.
Your 1 edition to rule them all.
My 1 edition. And also, of course, I wanted to see these Tolkien illustrations. And it then struck me that I don't own a complete set of the Alan Lee illustrated editions. And it's like, okay, well, it would be... I feel like when I get this Tolkien edition, that will probably be my final edition I buy. And I thought, well, actually, it would be remiss of me to not own the Alan Lee illustrated as well. So I bought yet another copy.
Would you perhaps describe yourself as a completist, John?
Yes, I have all 3 books.
that's great. Wonderful things to own. I don't actually officially own a copy. I think I've got my dad's copy.
Yeah.
And that's it. But I think you might have sent me a couple of photos.
Yeah,
from,
I can resist it. It's
Yeah.
so beautiful.
That looks amazing.
Yeah, the illustrations are so nice. I mean, and actually, it has inspired me to read it again because, of course, you buy these things and you put them on a shelf and you go, "Oh, they're pretty." But actually, having them there on the shelf in these lovely editions, it's like, oh, actually, I think it's time for a reread because I haven't read Lord of the Rings for at least 10 years. And having them in my hands, it was just like, okay, yeah, this is inspiring. And I'm actually intrigued to go back and read the books because I haven't read the books since I started playing this game. So I think it would be very interesting to sort of see where this game crosses over with the books with different characters. And it might make this podcast a little bit more informed. You never know.
Yeah, well, we actually know what we're talking about. Yeah, you know what? I was actually that's great. I was actually thinking about rereading as well. Funnily enough,
A book club.
A book club. What you going to read? Lord of the Rings, and it's going to last 4 years. 13 months to the day. Yeah, I think from all the discussions we've had on this, and when we've been looking things up and thinking, oh yeah, there was something about that in the book, and all those pieces which you've got, because obviously there's so much in those books. Yeah, I've been thinking about going back and rereading too. So, Racia.
Oh, you got yourself an easy win on your hands there.
I'm a very slow reader.
Oh, I can trump you. Yeah, but other than that, no, I've not really been doing anything. Just watching the rain, same as you.
Good. That time of year.
Yeah, exactly. Summer.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think we're officially summer yet. We're end of spring.
Yeah, I mean, spring's meant to be nice too, but
yeah. It's a fair point.
But never mind.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing more to talk about what we've been up to, I suggest we get straight on to the podcast then. So this episode, we are going to continue looking at the quests which come in the first deluxe expansion, Khazad-dûm, and it's the second quest we'll be looking at today, which is the 7th level. So it's the first deluxe expansion, second quest, 7th level.
There you go. You did well to get your head around that.
So if you haven't played that yet and you want to avoid spoilers, it's probably best that you just skip this entire episode. But if you have played that quest or you don't mind spoilers, then we're going to start talking about it from now. So,
the 7th level.
Yeah, and that's where we were heading, wasn't it? We'd entered the mines of Moria last episode. We had interrogated some goblin patrols, and then we'd made our way. We were going up to the chamber to find out what happened to Balin.
Exactly. And we both very much appreciated the way the story was told through the quest.
That's right.
Travelling through Moria.
Yeah.
Guess what I have with me, John?
The insert.
I've got the insert sheet. It's quite a short one, actually, for this one. Shall I read it through?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay. The 7th level. Difficulty level 3.
Oh.
Hello. It's a cinch. Barely worth doing a podcast on. Okay. Okay, to be discussed. Based on information from a dying goblin,
oh yes,
the heroes have made their way to the 7th level of Moria, still searching for any signs of Balin's colony. The 7th level holds the Chamber of Records, and it is there that the goblin said they would find Balin. An ancient tome also seems to hold clues as to whereabouts of the colony. That's all it says. Then it says which cards the 7th level is played with.
Yeah.
And then it's only got one other section, which is the Book of how do you pronounce it? The Book of Mazabul.
Mazabul,
yeah. Is it worth reading this? Or shall we read this when we get... Shall I just read it? Or no, let's wait till we get to the card, I would say.
Okay.
And that's all it says. So there's no extra too many extra funky rules or anything like that. It's just a description of what the quest is about in terms of the context of it. That's it.
Nice. That's the way an insert sheet should be.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, we're flying through this. What could go wrong? Well, shall we have a look at the quest cards then?
Okay, so quest card 1A is called Search for the Chamber.
Well, when you've got to go, you've got to go.
You don't want to be searching for it. Though. Where's it? Just ask some goblin. Barlin's over there. If you need to use the chamber, that's down that way.
If the door's locked, it might be Barlin. No one's heard from him for a while.
Here, take the Book of Mazabul. Just leave it on the side when you're finished. Okay. Search for the chamber. It says, you are investigating the 7th level of Moria, searching for the Chamber of Records and any sign of Barlin's colony. In the heavy twilight of a hall, a bulky tome is discovered in the grip of a dwarf skeleton. You carefully take possession of the book. Perhaps it will give you some answers. Then it's got a simple setup instruction, which says, setup. Search the encounter deck for the Book of Mazabul and have the first player attach it to a hero of his choice. Shuffle the encounter deck. So, the Book of Mazabul. This was the only other part of the insert sheet.
Okay.
I'll just read out what it says in the insert sheet first before we look at the card. And it says, this scenario uses the Book of Mazabul objective card. If Book of Mazabul is detached from a hero, either through a card effect or due to the hero it's attached to leaving play, then it returns to the staging area and can be claimed by any player who triggers its action. A hero can also exhaust to claim Book of Mazabul, even if it is attached to another hero.
Oh.
Should probably have read that properly before.
That's a good one.
That's a good one, isn't it? If Book of Mazabul is removed from the game, it should be set aside and ignored for the rest of the game. Okay, so that's all it says. So there is a good snippet of information in there. But,
that's a nice one.
Yeah.
And actually, that's worth remembering for other objectives which simply have an action that's exhaust a hero to claim this objective. I've never really thought about moving objectives around heroes like that.
Yeah. A revelation.
If you like.
So what does the actual card say? So the card says, Book of Mazabul, it's an item, and it's an Itifacts.
An Itifacts?
An item fact. It's an item, which is my favourite thing, and an artifact. And it's a restricted attachment, and has an action, exhaust a hero to claim this objective, then attach Book of Mazabul to that hero. If detached, return Book of Mazabul to the staging area. Attached hero cannot attack and does not exhaust to commit to a quest.
Yeah.
So attached hero cannot attack and does not exhaust to commit to a quest. So that's the key thing it kind of does. It is restricted, but I think it's clear from what we're saying. Neither of us have moved this around our heroes.
No,
where we've played, but it's suddenly opening up a whole world of possibilities.
Yeah, look at that. Amazing. I mean, you do have to exhaust a hero to move it, so you'd have to plan ahead. You wouldn't be able to just sort of bounce it around from hero to hero to make beneficial use of it throughout a...
Do you know where this could be useful, I think?
Go on.
If you're playing two-player...
Yeah.
So the card says... Well, okay. So I was thinking, if you had a two-player game and you kind of geared up your deck and you think, right, we want this hero to have the book, basically, out of your 6 heroes or whatever.
Yeah.
It says, in the setup, it says, have the first player attach it to a hero of his choice.
Yeah.
Can they attach to any hero?
Any hero. It's their choice.
Not one of the first player's heroes.
No, it's just
any hero. So I'm the first player, but I can choose to play it on one of your heroes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Same as any attachment, actually. You can always play an attachment onto your playing partner's heroes or characters.
Right, exactly. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but
okay, cool.
Bouncing it around, that's interesting.
It is. I think, we can do it. I keep thinking of ways to do that. I'm thinking, well, I'm already questioning myself, so let's park.
Yeah. Should we go away and play the quest?
Yes, exactly. That's the only way to do this properly.
I mean, we normally do it in advance.
Yeah.
Who would have thought to read the instructions?
Yeah. Okay, all right. Let's flip over the quest card.
Okay.
So 1B. So you need 15 progress to get through this quest. It says, the dwarven runes of the book appear to hold a detailed record of the fledgling colony, but there is some elvish script at the end which seems out of place. ... When revealed, reveal 1 encounter card per player and add it to the staging area. And there's some quite evil-looking artwork on this.
Yeah, these goblins just hanging around.
Just hanging around with their evil eyes. It's quite nasty-looking guy at the front. Yeah.
As opposed to the friendly-looking goblins.
You can't really see them.
They're at the back. What's going on? Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna attach this Book of Mazabul to a hero, and we're gonna reveal 1 card before we get started, basically, and then we just need to sort of quest through 15 progress, which is not too bad.
15? 15's that's a fair chunk, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I know, but nothing else is gonna happen.
Oh,
basically.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a while. No, it's not nothing, but basically, there's no more weird setup, is what I'm saying.
Yes, that's it.
No strange locations or anything moving in and out of the staging area. But the Book of Mazabul, as you state, means the hero that has that cannot be used to attack, but also does not exhaust to quest. Now,
yes.
I'm going to already jump into a slightly important thing about committing characters to quest. Now, in order to commit characters to quest, you have to be able to exhaust them. One of the prerequisites to commit to a quest is to exhaust a character. Okay? And then what normally happens is you then exhaust that character and they are committed to the quest. If a character is already exhausted, even if it has a card on it which says this character doesn't need to exhaust to be committed to a quest, it cannot be committed to the quest. Does that make sense? So...
Okay, I think I see what you're saying. What you're saying is, if you've got Legolas as a hero...
Yes.
And he's got the Book of Mazabul.
Yes.
And if he is at the beginning of the quest phase, he's ready.
Yeah.
Then you want to commit him to the quest. That's fine. He can commit to the quest, but you don't have to exhaust him.
Correct.
That's fine.
Yes.
But also, if you get to the questing stage, but Legolas happens to be exhausted already for some other reason, you cannot commit him to the quest because he's already exhausted. Yeah, exactly. He cannot exhaust and then not have to exhaust to get into the quest.
Exactly. One of the prerequisites to be able to commit to a quest is to exhaust. And then this card just tells you that you don't need to exhaust.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, fine.
Yeah, I mean, it is in the fact, it's based, the actual fact is referring to another card, but I'll just sort of skip over what the question is and just jump to what the response is. And it basically says, characters must be ready and able to exhaust in order to quest, attack, or defend. Card effects that allow a character to perform any of these actions without exhausting do not allow exhausted characters to perform those actions. So, that's just a very eloquent way of saying what I said in gibberish.
Yeah, no, but it made perfect sense. Because to be honest with you, when you started saying that, I thought this is going to be some roundabout way of saying, actually, if you've attached this to a hero, they still can't commit to the quest. Which I thought would be a bit self-defeating of the card. But it makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, and the reason why that popped into my head straight away is that right on the beginning of this stage 1B, it says when revealed, reveal one encounter card per player and add it to staging area. And the reason why this whole thing about exhausted characters cannot commit to a quest, even if they don't have to exhaust to commit to a quest, was one of the cards I drew on that initial setup there is a treachery. So I'm already jumping into the encounter deck here. And there's a treachery called Hidden Threat, which might come up again later. And that states, when revealed, each player must raise his threat by 1 for each enemy in the staging area. Of course, at that time, that made no difference to me. It says, then the last player discards an attachment he controls. So as this was the very first card off the encounter deck, I had to take Book of Mazabul and put it back in the staging area. That's what it says on the card you have to do whenever it gets discarded. And I thought, well, that's fine. That's not really a problem. I'll just exhaust, I think it was Dane at the time, I'll just exhaust Dane and get it back again. But then, of course, at that point, if I was to do that, then Dane wouldn't be able to commit to the quest. And, of course, he wouldn't have been ready to boost my other dwarfs. So it made no sense to do so, until after that initial quest. So that's just what I thought. I'd just bring that up now.
Yeah, that was the exact scenario I had to look up as well, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's the only attachment out there. Well, what happens when you discard it?
Yeah.
And you put it back in the staging area rather than in the discard pile?
Yeah. Yeah, because actually that's what it states in the insert as well, isn't it? For any reason that it gets detached, it's been detached, it goes to the staging area. It doesn't matter if it's being detached because your hero is dead or it's being forced to be discarded. It's that point of detachment that puts it into the staging area.
Yeah.
Right, well, that's a tangent of the first card.
Well, you mentioned you put it on Dane. I mean, did you go... I went through with dwarves again.
Yeah.
As I'm kind of planning to do through all three of these, really, just to keep it kind of thematic. And so I used pretty much the same deck as I did last time.
Yeah, as did I, yeah.
Okay, so my heroes were Dane, Gloin, and Gimli. And I pretty much always put the Book of Mazabul on Dane. Yeah. Because I thought I probably... The attached hero cannot attack. I probably won't use him to attack. I'll keep him ready to... Yeah, if he needs to defend, he's a great defender. I can use to defend. But really, he can commit to a quest, give himself +1 on the quest as well, and then +1 to everyone else who's committing. And as it's dwarves, they're not the best questers generally anyway. That was pretty much the only way to really kind of steadily quest through, I found. Yeah. And anyway, they were the heroes and I took along for the ride. Did you do a similar thing then? You mentioned Dane.
Yeah, so I had Dane, again, same heroes I took on the first quest. So it's Dane, Biffa, and Thalin. And at first, I put the Book of Mazabul on Biffa, because Biffa quests for 2, and I thought, well, okay, he's actually quite a good defender as well. So I thought, well, that's fine. I can keep him ready as my defender, and he'll still commit his 2 willpower +1 from Dane without having to exhaust. So then he's ready to defend. But actually, after a couple of playthroughs, I did exactly the same as you. I took it off of Biffa and put it onto Dane because, well, for exactly the same reasons you said. Dane will then boost himself. He's questing without exhausting. I was just, at the beginning of the game, you don't have very many allies out, so I was just questing with Biffa and Thalin and Dane without him being exhausted. Like you say, Dane can defend if necessary. He can't attack, but you don't really want to be attacking with Dane anyway. So, yeah, that's exactly the same thought process. Eventually.
Yeah. I think it took me a couple of goes to finally put it on Dane as well. Yeah. Okay, interesting.
So this is an interesting one to talk about because I think we should probably talk about a few of the encounters that we get because, like I say, there's not much going on this quest card apart from we've got one hero which is going to basically always be questing. Oh, by the way, I love the theme that this hero is always questing because he's gaining knowledge. He's gaining knowledge of what's happened to Balin by reading the book. So the longer that we're here, we are progressing our quest of finding out what happened to Balin by reading the book. He can't attack. Sure, it's a big, heavy book, but he can defend because it's a big, heavy book. So I love the fact that he could be putting it up above his head, as the axe comes crashing down and he reads a bit more. I love that.
Look, I'm reading here. Come on. Dwarf get no peace. That does work really well, doesn't it? I think, in terms of the encounters, I guess you're going to reveal one card already. Yeah. Before, right at the beginning. And what I found is I generally didn't want to see enemies.
Oh, you're in the wrong quest, boy.
But I'm in the wrong quest for that. Because there are some nasty enemies.
Yeah, there really are.
and plenty of them.
Yeah, well, that's just it, isn't it? I mean, basically, the enemies are broken into sort of two camps. There are enemies which just keep on coming, and then there are a couple of real big bads, and I'm sure we're going to discuss them all. But I don't know, what's the best way of discussing this? Should we look at these now, or should we just see what happens when we get through it, and then go back and talk about our experiences and who we meet along the way?
I don't know. I don't know.
It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one.
This one is a tricky one because it's so quest 1, quest 2.
Okay, well, look, let's just see what happens on quest card 2. Let's say we do manage to get through quest card 1. What happens?
Well, I shall tell you what happens. We're going to discover, as it says on the quest card 2A, the fate of Balin.
Whoa.
Again, some of our kind of artwork here.
It's amazing. Yeah, but actually, I love this artwork again. It's the muted side is beautiful, and then you turn it over, and it's just muted still.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just two different kinds of mute. Okay, so what does it say?
It says a lot.
It does say a lot. It says, "You have discovered the chamber. Before you lies the resting place of Balin, last Lord of Moria. The final portion of the book tells the grim tale. Balin was slain in the Dimmeril Dale, and the dwarves were then trapped in the mines. It seems as if there are no survivors. You stand silently by his tomb, but cannot tarry." Cannot tarry?
Yeah, that's some language, isn't it?
Does that mean hang around? Does that mean waste of time? Tarry? I guess it must mean something like that.
Tarry, yeah.
We mustn't tarry. I like that. Anyway. Orc war cries and horns sound close. You leave the cumbersome book as a testament to the dwarves' valour and prepare to fight your way out, lest Balin's fate becomes your own.
Moody,
Wow.
yeah.
Moody.
Sets the scene, doesn't it?
So you flip it over again. This time you need 17 progress to get through the card.
Yowzers.
When revealed, remove Book of Mazabul from the game.
It's gone.
It's gone. You've left it with Balin as a sign of respect, as we just said.
Yeah.
Forced, at the end of the staging step, reveal the top X cards of the encounter deck, adding all enemies to the staging area. Discard the other revealed cards without resolving them. X is the number of players. If the players defeat the stage, they win the game. So what that means is you might be getting an extra enemy every round, basically.
Or an extra 2 and 2 player.
Or an extra 2 and 2 player, yeah.
Oof. I wouldn't like to see that.
No. This could be interesting in 2 player, actually, couldn't it?
Yeah, I think it could be great in 2 player. I was thinking that when I was playing one of my playthroughs, it's like this would be a good one for us to test in 2 player. Because, yeah, this gets exponentially more difficult because these enemies are plentiful to start with, and this can just get crazily out of hand.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's quite straightforward. Basically, what we're faced with here is a massive battle out of Balin's tomb, basically. And it's terrific. I mean, as in thematically, you know, you've got there, and now you realise you've got to get out, otherwise you're going to be in big trouble. And on the way out, there are going to be a ton of enemies coming at you. And if you're unlucky, they can just keep on multiplying.
Yeah.
I think we should sort of jump into what the encounter deck's going to throw at us, and I think in doing so, we'll probably talk about how we approach the quest. So, in general, it's quite simple. I mean, we read the book, you put the book down, you fight your way out. That's this quest.
That's basically it, yeah. But I agree with you. I think this... Well, I think the whole thing is greatly thematic, but yeah.
Yeah, so... As mentioned, that there are a lot of enemies in this deck. I mean, it's a small encounter deck, but it is packed with enemies, and some of them have a nasty habit of generating more enemies.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to give us a couple of examples? I think I know which ones you're talking about.
Well, your sort of normal ground troops. So I've got 2 of them here, and one of them we've seen already. So one of them we saw in the first quest, which is the Goblin Swordsman. Goblin Swordsman is a goblin and an orc. It's an enemy. And it has an engagement cost of 20. It has threat of 1. It hits for 3, which is pretty unpleasant, defense for 1, and it has 2 hit points. And it says this: Goblin Swordsman gets +2 attack if its attack is undefended. Okay, so I think we mentioned this last episode. You've got to keep this guy defended, because if not, you're pretty much getting a dead hero. And then the other one is the Goblin Spearman. Now, he's new to this quest, and he has an engagement cost of 15. So both of these guys are coming for you, basically. Engagement cost of 15, engagement cost of 20. The Goblin Spearman has a threat of 2. He hits for 2, he defends for 2, and he has 2 hit points. He's a goblin and an orc. And it says Goblin Spearman gets +2 attack if this attack is undefended. So exactly the same effect as the Goblin Swordsman. So with both of these, you've got to have guys ready to defend them, otherwise you're in trouble. But the real trick that the designers have thrown on these guys are their shadows. So each of these have a very similar shadow. Well, they're identical apart from the name of the card. It says Shadow. Add Goblin Swordsman to the staging area. Or for the Spearman, Shadow, add Goblin Spearman to the staging area. And you will be seeing this a lot.
Yeah. It just means you can't avoid the buggers. They're coming for you. And there's plenty of them too.
There's so many. I mean, I love it. I mean, it feels like an old school video game. You know, it's like, where are these guys coming from?
Blip, blip, blip.
So you'll be engaged with these guys. You'll be forced to defend them. You'll be flipping over these shadow cards. You'll be seeing another one, and that's back in the staging area. It's like, oh my goodness, if I don't get rid of the one I'm currently engaged with, there's going to be another one engaged with me next round. That's going to get a shadow. That could be another one. And before you know it, you can be overrun. Now, add this to the fact that on that second quest card, we're getting an additional enemy, potentially, each round. Yeah. These guys can multiply like crazy.
Oh, yeah. They're awful.
Awful. Let's not start that again.
No. So, I thought I was being... do you know what I was doing with these guys?
Tell me.
I had Gimli.
Son of Gloin.
In my deck. Son of Gloin. He's on a quest with his dad in my deck. And I thought I'd be clever that I'd just taken undefended off the bat with one of these guys at the beginning.
Yeah.
If it was going to be from the Goblin Swordsman, I'd only do it obviously if I had my trusty. What are the boots called? Boots of something.
Erebor.
Boots of Erebor. Yeah, they're free, so you just stick them straight on extra hit point. Lovely. So you can take an undefended off the Goblin Swordsman. I remember I did that. This happened to me twice in a row, where I thought, that's fine. I don't think there's any shadows which boost the...
Oh, no.
But there is one shadow card which says attacking enemy gets +1, +3 instead if the attacking enemy is a goblin. And I had that twice in a row in 2 different games and killed Gimli both times. On like the first or second go. It's very annoying.
I find the worst with these guys is there is a treachery in here called Undisturbed Bones. Now, the treachery itself is not that bad. It says, when revealed, each player must deal X damage to one ally he controls. X is the number of allies he controls. Now, if you've got a lot of allies out towards the end of the game, you're going to be discarding an ally, basically. You just got to pick your chump blocker, send him to the abyss. But the shadow on this is insane if it's attached to a Goblin Swordsman or a Goblin Spearman. The shadow is, if the defending character is an ally, discard it from play. Okay, so back to the Goblin Swordsman and the Goblin Spearman. They both get +2 attack if the attack is undefended. So you go, well, okay, I'll defend it with an ally. Okay, turn over the shadow card. Defending character is an ally, discard it from play. Okay, so that's ally gone. So now that attack is undefended. Dead hero.
Oh. Well, there's something I've been playing wrong. Oh, of course it is.
How have you been playing it?
Well, I just thought that just meant that the ally is just destroyed. And that's what the shadow does. If you're an ally, he's just killed your ally. No. But actually, it's even worse than that.
It's much worse.
What's the theme of that?
Well, the theme of shadows is always a bit weird anyway, isn't it? I don't know what... each player... Well, let's look at the theme of the treachery itself first. Let's see if we can work this one out. So it's undisturbed bones. When revealed, each player must deal X damage to one ally who does X. No, that doesn't make any sense. There's no theme. It's just a nasty bit of work.
Oh, God.
Is there a theme I'm missing?
So, okay. So, well, you know I can probably come up with something. But I'm not, you know what? I'm more thinking about now how I've... Okay, I wonder if this is a mistake some of our listeners could make too, because I didn't think twice about this, which is obviously the problem. I didn't think once about it. So, Shadow, if the defending character is an ally, discard it from play. So what you've done in that instance is you've declared a defender. So you got your ally.
Yep.
You declared him a defender.
Yeah.
For Goblin Swordsman.
Yeah.
You reveal a shadow card, and the shadow card says, if defending character is an ally, discard it from play. Yep. So at that point, you get your ally, say goodbye in the discard.
Yeah.
And then this guy's now he's got an attack to resolve still.
Yeah.
So basically, he's doing 3 damage, but then it says, actually, there's no defender here.
Yeah.
So it's an undefended attack.
Yeah, absolutely. That's 5. Yeah. You better hope that Gimli's got no damage on him.
I've definitely been playing that one wrong. Yet more inverted cheating.
Well, I've got another story with undisturbed bones as a shadow. It was the bane of my life, but I'll have to come to another enemy for that. So we'll wait for that one to come up, and then we'll circle back. Because that, again, a particularly unpleasant experience.
Oh, that's upset me, John. It's upset me. I'm trying to think how many times I got that card as a shadow. All those times I beat the quest.
Yeah. Well, I think you'll have to just play it again.
No, I won't do that.
Okay, well that's throwing me. I was expecting to go yes, yeah, but that's particularly nasty, and then we'd have moved on to something else. But I can't.
Hey, it's me. You expected me not to misunderstand something to my advantage?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, yeah. I mean, so those are the two sort of ground troops that can cause you a lot of trouble because they bring their friends. Be in no doubt that they are coming at you in numbers. But there are also a few other nasty enemies. We've got a couple of really big bads and just a couple of really annoying guys. Do you want to pick one?
Okay, well, I'm not sure which one's your annoying ones. Let's do an annoying one. Annoying. I think I know which ones the annoying ones are. Okay, I'll do the Orc Hornblower.
As you wish.
Okay, Orc Hornblower. He has a engagement cost of 45. He's got a threat of 2. He only hits for 1. He's only got 1 shield. And he's got 3 hit points. Doesn't seem too bad.
Nah.
And he's an orc. And he's also a summoner.
Very nice too.
I think this is the first summoner we've seen.
Yeah, and actually, but interestingly, he's not a goblin. And I've only just noticed that. If you have anything that affects goblins, this guy is out.
What's the difference? No. Okay. So this is just a great thematic card, I think. So
yeah.
He's Orc Summoner. He's got Surge.
Yeah.
So straight away you get another card. And when revealed, reveal 1 card from the encounter deck and add it to the staging area.
Yeah.
So this guy, he's blown his horn.
Yeah, they're coming.
He gets a Surge because of that. And 1 more card from the encounter deck as well. So suddenly you draw this 1 card and you get 2 extra ones on top of it. So, that can really stack things against you.
And I think my description of annoying.
Yes. He is annoying.
Now, you might be wondering, it's like, well, wait, it's got Surge, and he's also got when revealed, reveal one card from the encounter deck and add it to the staging area. And you think, well, what's the actual difference? It's not just Surge 2, if you like. And the difference is if you had any cards in your deck that could cancel when revealed effects,
Right.
you could cancel one of those cards coming out. You wouldn't be able to cancel the Surge, but you could cancel that when revealed effect.
Yeah.
Because I read that, I was like, well, that's such a weird card, and then the penny dropped. I've got a little story about this guy, and I think this is probably why I class him as being very annoying. It involves your new favorite card, which was Watchful Eyes. We talked about it last episode. Just a reminder of Watchful Eyes. It says, it's a treachery, and it says, when revealed, the first player attaches Watchful Eyes to one of his heroes, counts as a condition attachment with the text, limit 1 per hero. Forced, if attached hero is exhausted at the end of the combat phase, reveal 1 card from the encounter deck and add it to the staging area. So I was on stage 2B, where during staging, remember, you reveal a card, and then at the end of staging, you reveal another one, and if it's an enemy, you add it to the staging area. So first card in staging I revealed was Watchful Eyes, so I was like, oh, that's annoying. So I put that, I think I probably put it onto Dane. That's the normal position for Watchful Eyes.
Not so bad when he's got the book.
No. But this is stage 2B. The book is gone.
Yeah.
And then I had to reveal the next card for stage 2B, and it was the Orc Hornblower. Okay, so that goes into the staging area. So then I get Surge. The next card that comes out, another Watchful Eyes. Right?
Oh,
so,
lovely.
Yeah, so that's going on Biffa. And then just do the when revealed effect, reveal 1 card from the encounter deck and add it to the staging area. How about a third Watchful Eyes?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I had a little thought of you and about how it was your new favourite card.
I would not have enjoyed that, John. What did you do? Did you just get swapped?
I lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, with the theme of these sort of multiplying enemies, Watchful Eyes falls into this brilliantly. So you've got a quest card which is adding enemies to the staging area. You've got shadow cards which are adding enemies to the staging area. You've got Watchful Eyes where if your guys are exhausted at the end of combat, they're adding cards to the staging area. It is easy to get overwhelmed with enemies in this quest.
Yeah, totally. I think those Watchful Eyes, especially on that second quest, you've got to be getting rid of them as soon as you can, or you just got to quest straight through, basically.
Straight through the 17 with dwarves.
Yes. Precisely.
Okay, there's one other, what I would class as annoying enemy, but it wasn't annoying to me.
This is your Farlin.
So the Goblin Archer is in this set. Now, he has an engagement cost of 48. It's massively high. You think that's fine. He's just going to sit in the staging area. He has threat of 2. He hits for 1. He defends for 3, but he only has 1 hit point. He's a Goblin Archer. He's a Goblin and an Orc. It says players cannot optionally engage Goblin Archer. So this guy is sitting in the staging area until your very last round. If you happen to be letting your threat raise that high. Characters with ranged are eligible to attack Goblin Archer while it is in the staging area. I don't know about you, but I had no range.
No, I don't. No. They're natural sprinters, dwarves.
Forced. After an enemy is revealed from the encounter deck, the first player must deal 1 damage to 1 character he controls. So this guy is just sat in the staging area, firing arrows at you, basically. Beautifully thematic, incredibly annoying, unless you happen to have Tharlin in your deck, and then you just quest Tharlin every single round. Do not at any point think, maybe I won't quest with him this go, because that's when the Goblin Archer will come out. So Tharlin, of course, he puts 1 damage onto enemies as they're revealed from the encounter deck. So I never had to do anything with the Goblin Archer, ever. it just took that 1 damage every time and he went away. Now, an important thing with Tharlin and this stage 2B, that extra card that gets revealed due to stage 2B's forced effect is also affected by Tharlin's action, because Tharlin is committed to the quest at that point. If this forced effect said at the end of the quest phase, then Tharlin would no longer be committed to the quest, but it's not. It's at the end of the staging step. So therefore, Tharlin is committed to the quest, so enemies do get that hit point still.
And it says revealed and then add, rather than just added.
Yeah. So, Tharlin was my best friend.
He's one of my all-time faves, Tharlin.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Always had a lot of time for that guy.
He's exceptionally useful in quests like this. Because, I mean, if you think about it, basically all these low hit point goblins that are coming out, they're all getting 1 damage on them, apart from the ones that come out from shadows. That was always annoying, because when the shadow says put it into the staging area, Tharlin's no longer committed to the quest. Up they go with no damage on them. Okay, so those are all the... It doesn't sound like many sort of troops, if you like, but they are so plentiful that it is very easy to be overrun by these little guys. And if you haven't got characters ready to defend against them, you can be in real trouble.
Yeah, oh, totally. And there's just so many of them. They just... if you're not ready, if you get a bit unlucky right off the bat...
Yeah.
At the beginning, you can just get overrun really quickly in this quest. I think we've probably both seen that.
Absolutely. Okay, well, should we carry on with the enemies then? Because there are a couple of other nasties here.
Yeah. Okay, so the one I've got right next to me here is the Chieftain of the Pit.
Yeah. Ooh.
He looks like a nasty fellow.
Yeah, you can see how he's risen through the ranks, can't you?
Yeah. All right, Chief. He has an engagement cost of 27. He has a threat of 2. He hits for 5.
Oh.
5. He has a defense of 2, and he has 4 hit points. He is brutal.
He's tough.
He's a goblin. He's an orc. And it says, when revealed, Chieftain of the Pit gets +3 attack until the end of the round. So in that first round, you see this guy's hitting for 8. So basically, he's killing pretty much anybody.
Yeah, and he's coming at you with an engagement cost of 27.
Oh yeah. He's coming for you. You got to hope that, you got to have some chump there or whatever on the first time you defend with this guy.
Yeah.
And take him out as quick as possible, obviously.
No, absolutely. I mean, if you haven't got a chump blocker, then Quick Strike or Feint are your best friends with this guy. Just give yourself a round without him attacking, because then, of course, his attack just goes down to a lowly 5.
What a loser, eh?
Yeah. I would also say that he is 1 sneak attack Gandalf away from being destroyed. So in that respect, you can just easily get rid of him if you happen to have sneak attack and Gandalf in your hand. I did find that actually Tharlin could take him out, because with a Dwaradov axe, gives him an extra 1. If Dane is ready, that's another extra 1, so he's hitting for 4. If you've quested with Tharlin, he's already got 1 damage on him. So then Tharlin can hit for 4 on him. That puts 3 damage on him, and then the Dwaradov Axe gives 1 extra point of direct damage after the attack, and that kills him. Yeah. Oh, you have to be you have to be able to ready Tharlin.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, unexpected courage or something like that.
Yeah, or I was using the Arable Record Keeper to great aplomb this quest. So yes. I was using the Arable Record Keeper to ready Dwarf Heroes left, right, and centre. Oh, actually, that's another good one that I found out, because Dane gives +1 attack to all dwarfs when he's ready. But Dane also is quite a strong attacker. So yeah, if you attack with him, he's no longer ready. I did check that you can perform actions after committing characters to an attack. So what I found I could do was exhaust... I only had to do this once or twice, but you could exhaust Dane to perform an attack. I could then use the Arable Record Keeper or Unexpected Courage to ready him. He would still be engaging in the attack, and because he was ready, he would get +1 on his attack.
Oh, nice. Cheeky.
Oh, Erebor Record Keeper is my best friend. I had drawers popping
he's
up
great,
left, right, and centre. He's absolutely amazing. I love him. Yeah, so that's the Chieftain of the Pit. I mean, he is nasty, but there are ways to get past him. The other big bad is even more unpleasant, in my opinion, and that is the Cave Troll, Boromir's best friend. So he has an engagement cost of 33. He has threat of 4, hits for 6, defends for 4, and has 7 hit points. Ay, ay, ay.
Brutal.
That is pretty tough. I mean, the one saving grace on those stats is the engagement cost of 33. There is a chance that you might be below that, so you could have a little bit of preparation time. But this troll's effect is pretty nasty. For each excess point of combat damage dealt by the cave troll, and that is defined as damage that is dealt beyond the remaining hit points of the character damaged by its attack, you must damage another character you control. So basically what that's saying is if you had a Snowborn Scout and you thought, I'm just going to throw it under the troll bus, Snowborn Scout is dead for 1 hit point. Any hits beyond the death of that jump blocker have to be distributed amongst other characters.
It's just like the troll in the Journey Along the Anduin. But on that one, you have put the excess on your threat. Do you remember?
Yeah. It's a bit like that. Now, with that, obviously, yes.
In terms of calculations.
In terms of calculations, yes, but there's one important use of the language on this card, and that's right at the beginning. It says, for each excess point of combat damage. Okay? The important thing there is that, let's say you have 4 excess points of combat damage. They don't all have to go on one character. You're doing it for each excess point.
Okay. No, I don't think I picked up on that either.
Yeah, it's and I must admit I looked it up because it was like, oh, is that how it's meant to be written? I mean, it is how it's meant to be written, but is that how it's meant to be interpreted? And it is. It was answered by Nate French back in the day. So it's for each excess point of combat damage dealt by the cave troll, you must damage another character you control. So actually, it is. If you follow it to the letter of the law here, it's correct. For each point, damage someone else. And actually, of course, that makes great thematic sense. If you think this cave troll is just swinging his club around in Khazad-dûm, he hits this guy, he hits that guy. He's not just clobbering someone else.
It's collateral damage.
It really is.
This guy is so nasty. I mean, this is where you don't want to see this guy in conjunction with another cave troll, because I think there's a couple of these.
Oh, yeah.
Or someone like the Chieftain of the Pit. That can get really messy.
Oh, another cave troll. So I had a cave troll sat in the staging area, and because he came out early, and my threat was relatively low, so I had a bit of time to plan for it. So I brought in Gandalf, put 4 direct damage on him, of course, and then I intended to defend with Gandalf because he can soak it all up, 4 defense, and then 2 hit on Gandalf, no problem. And then I was just going to attack with everyone else I had ready and just hope I had enough to beat him. So played out Gandalf, entered into staging, revealed another cave troll. So I thought, well, okay, let's see if I can get through it. And defended with Gandalf on the first cave troll I was engaged with. The shadow was Undisturbed Bones. So I had to discard Gandalf.
Oh dear.
Yeah, undefended attack.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. I think I had one evening I sat down to play, and I had a series of games where I just got decimated straight away in a row. I think I sent you a few photos of some of these, and one of them was something quite similar, where at the beginning of a setup you reveal a card, and it was a cave troll. And I was like, great, they have a cave troll. And then when we did the first staging round, it was another cave troll. They have 2 cave trolls. So you're sitting there with 8 threat in there, which actually I equaled because I had Gimli and Gloin in and Dane. But my starting threat's 31.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
So it's just game over. There's nothing you can do. You can't build up in time, and the game's over after 3 rounds, essentially.
Yeah, but actually
and that was the end of that. Yeah.
But actually, that's a very good point about the threat building up in the staging area, because we talk about how we defeat these enemies and, you know, what you need to attack and how you need to defend. But actually, there are a lot of enemies spawning in that staging area, and they've all got threat, and some of these threats are quite high. So it's not just a case of how am I going to defeat these enemies. A lot of time it's like, how am I actually going to be able to quest through? 17 points needed on that second quest card. I mean, and 15 on quest card 1.
Yeah, I think, was it about this one when I used the phrase, you know, I think for the first time, I'm enemy locked.
Oh, yeah.
Rather than location locked in the staging area.
Oh, well, actually, I did want to talk about the enemies a bit more, but we're talking about locations that aren't locations. This is definitely a fighty quest, for sure. But it is possible that the locations will play a part, which it only really happened to me once. But there are a couple of locations which I basically, on that second quest, I had to travel to the Goblin Tunnels. And actually, well, I'll read it out. I mean, the Goblin Tunnels, it's a thread of 2, and it's 7 progress to get through. So the question would be, why travel there? But it says, while Goblin Tunnels is in the staging area, it gains forced. After a goblin is revealed from the encounter deck, remove a progress token from the current quest card. And as previously mentioned, there are lots of goblins being revealed, but apparently not the Orc Hornblower, which I would have probably missed that. But I figured I have to travel there. So that's an extra 7 progress to get through. And then I revealed into the staging area the Upper Hall, which itself has a threat of 3 and takes 4 progress to get through. It has a simple effect of Doom 2, which is very unpleasant when you reveal it as the first card, which happened quite often. But that extra 3 will just sit there in the staging area because I find it really difficult to get through the Goblin Tunnels, and then all the other enemies are joining the staging area. I did manage to get past it, but it just took forever.
Yeah, it's interesting. I tended to, not always, but a lot of the time, I tended to travel to Goblin Tunnels.
Yeah, I think you have to.
It's really funny. It's like, well, I guess we can talk about this at the end, but I think the way this quest kind of pans out a lot of the time, sometimes you get to a point where the questing side of it actually isn't the problem at all, and it really is about the enemies, which is a funny thing to say when you've got a dwarf-heavy deck. But yeah, let's have that discussion in a sec. Because I think when you look at the other locations, I think they're definitely worth travelling to.
Yeah.
So Upper Hall, as you just mentioned,
yeah,
it's got a threat of 3 and 4 to get through it, so why not travel there and get that threat out of the staging area?
If you can get there for sure.
Yeah. And then the other one has got a threat of 3 as well, and only needs 2 to get through it. And it's an underground location as well. And it's the Plundered Armory. And what it says in the Plundered Armory is, while Plundered Armory is in the staging area, enemies get +1 attack. So already you've got a motivation to get that out of there.
You have to go.
But also it says, response, after Plundered Armory leaves play as an explored location, each player may attach a weapon or armor attachment from his hand to one character he controls. So you essentially get a free card at that point. So, yeah. But even if you didn't have that, like you say, Joe, you just have to get that out of the staging area anyway.
Yeah, you can't afford to be buffing up these enemies anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so those are all the locations. So it's definitely not a location-heavy quest by any stretch of the imagination, but it is possible to still get stitched up by them. That's the beauty of this game.
Yeah, and I also found that they, in a way, became a key way to win the game as well. I think I mentioned this last week's, or in fact, when we went through the cards a couple of episodes ago, we were talking about Untroubled by Darkness. It cost 2. I could use this because of Navi's Belt. It's a spirit card. So just as a reminder, this is action. Each dwarf character gets +1 willpower until the end of the phase. +2 willpower instead if the active location is an underground or dark location. So if you get a couple of these in your hand, so you imagine a situation, you got 2 of these in your hand, and you've gone to let's say you've gone to the Plundered Armory, which you only need 2 to get through it, but it's an underground location. When you're questing that let's say every single dwarf that's questing gets all their willpower, plus 1 because of you got Dane there, plus another 2 because you got an untroubled by darkness and you're in an underground or dark location. And if you've got another one of these as well, that's a plus 5. So every single dwarf gets plus 5 willpower to whatever willpower we've already got. And I found, if you just needed to peg it out of there on Quest 2B, if you could get that set up in your hand, that was a great way to do it. So you don't have to go through loads of rounds of fighting. You just run away from them and just leave them behind. Because there were times where it was either it's proper fight versus flight response. Yeah. And it's like, if you chose fight, you're probably going to go down. So it was just right, just run and get out of it. So I found that was a really useful way to do it. And Penny only dropped after a while that you could actually use 2 of these. There's enough to stop you using 2 of these at the same time.
Yeah, how cunning! I didn't have any spirit cards in my deck, but that is very nice. Yeah, that's a very nice combo. Ah, well done.
Yeah, I like it. It's proper desperation.
No. I like that a lot. That's great. Talking about penny dropping. I actually played. Well, we'll talk about the sort of difficulty rating of this quest when we sort of sum it up. But I mean, when I first started playing it, it was like, wow, this quest is really tough. I thought it was like, how am I going to get through it? I mean, admittedly, I didn't build a specific deck for it. I just took the deck from the previous quest and took it into this one. I thought, oh, maybe I need to sort of rejig this. But I did definitely want to keep the same heroes because this very much is a continuation of the story, and it wouldn't make sense to me to suddenly have different, Boromir suddenly turn up. They have a cave troll. So I was thinking, how am I meant to sort of defeat this? And then, of course, like the first thing was like, oh yeah, maybe put the Book of Mazabul onto Dane. That was a good thing. And then it all fell into place for me. And basically, I sort of was scanning through my cards and thinking, oh, how can I tweak this deck appropriately and maybe give myself a bit of an advantage here? And then there are 2 cards that I actually already had one in my deck, but not enough of them. And then one I put into my deck to refine it that completely, well, it just took my deck to a whole nother level. And essentially it broke the quest. And since making these changes, I have not failed at this quest once. And those 2 cards are the Gondorian Spearman and the Mirkwood Runner. So The Gondorian Spearman works absolutely amazingly with Thalin, because a lot of these goblins have all got 2 hit points. So if you're questing a Thalin every single time, they get 1 direct damage on it. If you can get 1 Gondorian Spearman out, or preferably 2, but if you can get 1 out early, the Gondorian Spearman, just as a reminder, when he...
Gondorian Spearman is for superhero version.
Yeah. Just a reminder, the Gondorian Spearman, when he exhausts to defend, he puts on 1 direct damage onto the enemy that's attacking him. Yeah. So if you've got 1 damage already on these goblins, when they engage you, you just defend with the Gondorian Spearman, and that enemy is gone. You don't have to reveal its shadow card, so any respawning enemies, that doesn't trouble you. And if you, like I said, I just get 1 out towards the beginning of the game, and you can have complete control over the staging area because none of these enemies give you any grief. I mean, yeah, sure, there are other enemies that come out. It certainly doesn't solve it. You still have to beat the game, but it really, really helps. And the other card which I mentioned was the Mirkwood Runner. Now that's a law ally, and just as a reminder, the Mirkwood Runner
doesn't count the shield, right?
Yeah, exactly.
When he attacks alone.
Yeah, when he attacks alone, he doesn't count the enemy's defense, and he hits for 2. So basically, if you could get at least...
Yeah.
Well, not even with Thalin, because the Goblin Swordsman and the Goblin Spearman both have hit points for 2. So it just bypasses the defense and it kills them outright as well.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, the Swordsman only has 2. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's absolutely perfect. I mean, the thing is, like, the Hornblower has 3 hit points. So if you've quested with Thalin, he's got 1 hit on it, but then the Mirkwood Runner can dispatch him no problem as well. It really, really completely broke the quest. I mean, because if you have 3 spearmen and 3 Mirkwood runners, you're almost guaranteed to see one of them in your opening hand, and if not, just mulligan, and then you almost certainly will.
It's funny you say that, because honestly, there were a lot of times we're doing this quest, I've really thought to myself, I wish I had a Gondorian spearman. Yeah. Honestly, so many times I thought that, because it was just inching those, those hit points onto them. I didn't think about Mirkwood Runner. And it's funny, because I love Mirkwood Runner. It's one of my favourite cards, actually. But I didn't think about putting him in this quest. That's a really neat idea, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite expensive, but actually, the thing is, my new favourite hero of Biffa is fantastic because, the Mirkwood Runner costs 3, and I have a Trisphere deck, but basically you can gift Biffa a resource each round. So if I have Mirkwood Runner in my starting hand, so round 1, Biffa has his resource, I gift him 1 that round, and then he can pay for it straight on that second round. Yeah. So it works so well. And the other honourable mention I must give, and I said in the last episode I didn't have this guy in my deck, and then I went back and checked my deck, and it turns out I did. He was obviously down the pub with Faramir, which was the Longbeard Orc Slayer.
I love this guy.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned him last episode, and I said, I didn't have him in my deck, but I apparently I did. I just never saw him. And just as a reminder, when he enters play, he deals 1 damage to each orc enemy in play. Again, quite expensive, 4, but I had Steward of Gondor, so I wasn't short of resources. Actually, in this quest, was one of the few times where I was sneak attacking sort of more unusual allies. Normally sneak attack is reserved for Gandalf or some sort of special occasion. But on 2 occasions, once I sneak attacked a Gondorian spearman in, which was, but it just saved me. It just saved me the last minute. And being able to sneak attack in the Longbeard Orc Slayer when suddenly I had a load of enemies up in the staging area and also engaged with me, which I wasn't expecting. Sneak attack this guy in, pepper damage across all of them. Then he goes back to your hand, and then the next round I could just play him out naturally, and it completely decimated the enemy. It was really, really useful.
Yeah, I've used that exact move too. Yeah, sneak attack, Longbeard Orc Slayer. It can be so useful just depending on the number of enemies. Yeah, but I think what you're saying to me there, I think overall is you're seeing the value of just one hit. How useful it is. Yeah,
absolutely.
So all that penny pinching you were accusing me of earlier. It all adds up. I do think it's very prevalent in this quest, though, isn't it? With these kind of enemies. Yeah. Just 1 hit here, 1 hit there. With all the other stuff that's going on, it's just night and day, isn't it, as to how the quest is going to go.
No, absolutely, especially these goblins which just have 2 hit points, because they are nasty, and they keep on multiplying. So if you can find a way just to eke their damage down.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and then there was just one other thing I want to mention about the Mirkwood Runner, because this was just a nice move, was that I was able to dispatch a cave troll without any bother. And this was, I think, the last time I played, I thought, okay, I'm packing this away now. This quest is surely a difficulty level 3 at this stage, because the cave troll came in, and I was questioning with Tharlin, so he had 1 damage put on him. And just a reminder, the cave troll has
7.
7 hit points. So there's 1 damage from Tharlin. I sneak attack Gandalf in, that was 4 damage, so he's up to 5. I defended with Gandalf, and then I attacked with the Mirkwood Runner, which bypassed the cave troll's defense, putting the last 2 damage on him. Dead troll.
X-troll. Yeah. So being able to bypass shield is so useful. Yeah. That's such a great ability.
Yeah, but you opened my eyes to the Mirkwood Runner, because you said you played him lots, and it is, like I said, for some reason I'd put him in a lot of my decks but never really saw much use for him. And this time, he's not going anywhere now.
A new favourite.
Yeah, and the Gondorian Spearman still showing his worth after all these years.
He's been a particular stalwart of yours, isn't he, since the very beginning. No, he's great.
Okay, well, yeah, that's pretty much how I found the quest and how I beat it. And like I say, when I first started playing it, I was back and forth. Like, actually, there was a couple of times I beat it incredibly easily, and then other times where I got absolutely destroyed. And I was thinking, is this quest itself a bit imbalanced, that it's either really easy or it's either really difficult? And at first I wasn't that impressed with it. And then I actually played this quest a lot in the last couple of weeks, and it's really grown on me, actually. I think it is very thematic. It is very fighty, but it even when I came up with this idea of using the Gondorian Spearman and the Mirkwood Runner, it still had to be played through. It still had to be beaten. It wasn't. I didn't fail at any point after that, but it didn't just beat itself. And I actually had a great time with it.
I had a similar experience in that at the beginning. Well, I remember the first time playing through this some months back, whenever it was, I tried to take a dwarf deck through all of these, and I found it really tough. I think I mentioned this last time, and ended up getting quite a quest-centric kind of deck together with a bit of fighting to wall things off, and I managed to get through it that way. What I found doing it this time was, my initial feeling, I probably still got this feeling to some extent, was what you said, which was I was seeing occasions where literally after the first 1 or 2 rounds you were just dead, or you were just steaming through. I was getting the impression that depending on what came out, what you got in your hand, what came out of the draws, what luck you had on the card draw, was basically dictating it. I remember when I was mentioned earlier about that time where I got the 2 cave trolls straight away, and I went through this run of just not beating it time after time, but one evening. And then when I did beat it, I think it was the quest phase on the 5th round. I beat it, which is ridiculous when you think about it, But that's how it transpired, and I was thinking, well, okay, maybe it is one of that kind of quest. But on the ones where it was close, it was really fun. It was a really good quest. It was really tense. So I think when you got into that situation, it was great. There was once or twice, maybe once, where I managed to turn around a kind of despairing situation into a positive. And there's probably 1 or 2 where I felt I was winning, got dragged down into the pit. But generally, it was pretty clear what was going to happen quite quickly. And I think what I also found was if I wasn't getting enemies off the setup and off the first couple of staging rounds, then you'd be in such a good position compared to the staging area. In fact, it makes it so much easier. Yeah. So I felt maybe it's a little bit too weighted in that direction. However, it did grow on me massively, because I'll be honest with you, I wasn't that big a fan of this one playing it through the first time, but I really quite like it now. I think it is really thematic. It's got great atmosphere. You really do feel like you're in the situation it's describing there. So yeah, I'm a fan of it. It's nice, simple, thematic quest. So it's very hard to give a difficulty.
No, isn't it? No, but that's it exactly. Because I was thinking when you said it's 3, it's like, well, sometimes.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's a 1. Sometimes it's a 10.
Yeah, exactly. So so maybe in that respect, it should just be difficulty level 5, because it really is. How's your luck?
Yeah.
But actually, it was interesting that since you talked there about times when you thought you maybe had it in the bag and then something, came up and really stitched you up. I mean, there was a couple of times where it's like, I was thinking, I'm sailing through this and I really have control over the staging, and I've got my Gondorian Spearman working with Thalin and everything's working perfectly, and I only need a couple more quest points, and it's a cave troll.
Yeah.
And you're just not ready for it.
No,
and then you really have to think, well, how am I going to get through this? Because all of a sudden, Thalin and a Gondorian Spearman isn't going to cut it.
Yeah. You just got to run.
Yeah, but
I love that about it. That's my favourite thing about this quest, I think, is card 2B. Where it's like, do we just need to stop for a second, get rid of this enemy because he's taking us out? Or do we carry on running to that light at the end of this of this tunnel? And that was beautifully thematic, I think, in this. That really worked. It's kind of, when you're forced to make those kind of decisions, do we stop and fight for a second? Or do we carry on, trying to just quest our way out of here? That's where the real fun is in this quest for me.
Yeah, and talking about the theme, I mean, it can be incredibly frustrating, but when you start to get these enemies with their shadows, which then populate more enemies into the staging, and then the hornblower comes out, and you get 2 more enemies, and then another enemy comes off because of stage 2B, and suddenly you went from having complete control to, I've just turned a corner, and there's a room full of goblins.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And it's like, well, where did these guys come from? Because it can turn on an instant that you're absolutely in control, and then the next thing you know, something happened between the start of the round and the end of the round. You now have 6 new enemies in the staging area.
Yeah.
And that's brilliant. I love that.
Yeah, same here.
I mean, I hate it, but I love it.
My general tactic with this was to make sure I was kind of ready for a good run, a good sprint on 2B.
Yeah.
So make sure you've cleaned out as much as you can in stage 1, and you've built up enough allies or whatever it is you need to do. And then you can try and sort of sprint through the second one. Because it's a long way to go, 17.
I wasn't pacing anything. I was just going. Anything I could do at any time.
But when it's like that, that's when this quest is fun.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think. When you're just like, okay, what now? How do I deal with this? That's when this quest becomes fun. The games didn't get to that place quite enough for me. But when they did, it's great. But still, the funny thing is, even though the one sometimes you do lose easily and sometimes you do win easily, it doesn't stop you coming back to it. It's like you don't get bored of it, which says something about this quest. I'm not going to, after we finish here, going to play the quest another 20 times. But
well,
I
think you should, because you obviously made some terrible errors with Undisturbed Bones.
Never saw it. But no, overall, this quest also gets a thumbs up for me. I've got to say.
Not going to sell many ice creams going at that speed.
Not going to sell many ice creams at all in this weather.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, actually, because you'd think you're not going to play this quest over and over again, because there aren't that many mechanics going on in the quest itself. It's just a lot of fighting the same sort of enemies. But I played this, like I say, a good 10 or 12 times, because each time I played it, I found it was telling a different story, and sometimes you could just rush through and you managed to get past without any orcs turning up. It's like, well, what are the chances of that? And other times you're completely overwhelmed. 2 cave trolls, there's goblins coming at you left, right, and centre, and it was an incredibly different experience. And then when I tweaked my deck, and then even as simple as like starting with the Book of Mazabul on a different hero, how does that affect how the game plays? And I think that's what I love about this game, is that there is sort of infinite replayability. By just changing very subtle things in your own deck will give you a whole different experience in how the game plays out. And actually, these simple quests are a great place to sort of test these things out.
Yeah, I think did I mention last time? I think I've gone down. I think I've got like a 51 card deck now. Oh no, I think it didn't last time. This deck I've got now, I think, is 51 cards.
Yeah,
I've been slowly refining it. And one thing I was wrestling with last week about the game.
Brock?
It was about Navi's belt.
Oh yeah.
And at one point, the thought came to my head, it's like, why don't you just have a song instead? And then I thought 2 things about that.
That would have been a brilliant bridge to you breaking into one of your songs, which you've been promising.
Hey, I didn't say I've been writing songs. I said I've been writing music. You definitely won't be hearing singing. But I thought 2 things about swapping out Navi's belt for songs. One was then you do have multiple sphere cards in this deck, so you'd have to really rethink the deck. And secondly, and more importantly, it was you're going to then have to get on the podcast and admit that John was right.
Yeah, nothing is worth that.
I'm not. Yeah, exactly. No reward is worth this. So I thought, no, I'm sticking to it.
Well, the song, I'm a big fan of the songs, but I'm sticking obviously with my Rivendell Minstrel to dig out the songs, and I have 3 Rivendell Minstrels and 1 Song of Battle, and that's enough to get, with being able to resource smooth over.
You have one song and three minstrels. That's clever.
Song,
that's clever.
3 minstrels, because the minstrel, again, expensive, but as previously mentioned, it's easy enough to get Biff of those resources to pay for the minstrel. Brings out the song, put that onto Dane. Dane will more likely not get Steward of Gondor at some point, so he's rich. He's feeding Biff lore resources, and he's able to pay for Thalin's tactics cards. So that's how I balance the resources. But also, the great thing about doing it that way is the Rivendell Minstrel, she quests for 2.
Yeah,
exactly. She is not shabby when it comes to questing. And if you've got a dwarf deck, we know that questing can be a problem. So even if you've already got your song out, it's worth bringing her out anyway. And also, don't forget that Durin's song is a song. So even if you've already brought out your Song of Battle or whichever song it is you need in your deck, you can always use the Rivendell Minstrel to go and find Durin's song, which of course helps all your dwarfs.
Nice.
I love songs.
No, to be honest, I do too. It's just
I love minstrels.
It's a great combo in more ways than one. But I do too. I use lots of songs in other decks. I probably haven't used the minstrels enough, frankly. But yeah, interesting point about Durin's song. So that's one of the cards I have in my deck as well. In fact, earlier when I was talking about using Untroubled by Darkness to, if you want to do that sprint finish, the other things that if you can, the ultimate combo for doing that is, and I think I've managed to do this a couple of times, is you're in an underground or dark location, bring that out, but also bring out Gandalf, not a sneak attack, bring him out, get some more cards in your hand as well. Any dwarfs you've got, play them out just to boost it as much as possible. Yeah. But then also play Durin's song, which only costs 1 or multiple Durin's songs, whatever. Yeah. And then you can really, really whack up you can end up questing for 45 or something ridiculous, stupid numbers, almost guaranteeing to get through it. Yeah. If you can build that up, which is it's weirdly satisfying.
Oh, no, but it is weirdly satisfying. I mean, I didn't really have it with questing, but I did have some, again, weirdly satisfying moments of playing lots of cards to boost attacks. It was like, I think I played a Durin song and then 2 Khazads.
Yeah, it's got double Khazad. That's called Khazad.
All of a sudden, Thalin was like hitting for 9 or something. It's like, and then he had like 2 dwarven axes on him. I don't know. It was crazy at one point, but again, like I say, oddly satisfying.
Khazad's such a useful card as well, actually, when you're dealing with some of these enemies.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Especially if you've got a double one. If you're trying to take out a troll or whatever it is, that can be super useful. Yeah. Try and get rid of one of these big guys in one go.
What I found actually with Durin's song, which was quite useful, is playing it out at the beginning of the round. If we were on stage 1 and Dane was holding the Book of Marzabal, is that you could play out Durin's song, boost his willpower by 2. He doesn't have to exhaust the quest, and then you can defend with him, and he has his shield boosted up to 5 as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't happen very often, but it's nice on paper.
Oh no! If you got a way not to exhaust or to refresh already, rather, heroes. Yeah, Durin's song is so useful. It's useful anyway, but
if you can get 2 uses out of Durin's song, you're laughing. I mean. Yeah, often I use it just to boost one specific stat at that time. But if you can plan ahead and get it out at the beginning of the round, to be able to boost your dwarves throughout the whole round, super useful.
Yeah.
Right, we got into a crazy player card discussion.
That's good though. We're talking about how we defeat the quest. That's
exactly. No, we were determined. It's like this episode could be short and sharp, talking about this quest. No. Let's add an hour about player cards at the end.
Why wouldn't you?
No, but I don't think there's much more to say about this quest. I mean, I did enjoy it, but I think we are very much of the same opinion with that. So that it's not a classic. I'm not going to come back to it time and time again, but I did have a good time with it for sure. And narratively, it fits in with this current story really nicely.
Oh yeah, definitely. In fact, I did have a quick game of the third Third one in the set already, so I couldn't resist.
No, good for you. Well, okay, well that's a good link then. So unless you have more to say about this quest.
No, I think we've covered it.
Yep. Okay, great. So as you say, so the next episode will be the third and final quest episode in the Khazad-dûm set. And where will we be going?
We will be going... Well, it's not where we're going to, it's where we're going from.
Ooh.
It's the flight from Moria.
Ah, fly you fools.
Indeed. And fools we most certainly are.
Okay, so yeah, we'll go off and play that, and then we'll come back and make a podcast about it.
Yeah.
If before the next episode you'd like to get in touch with us, there are a few ways you can do it. You can get in contact with us directly via email, which is latertherings@gmail.com. You can contact us on Twitter, which is @latertherings. And there is the Board Game Geek thread, which, as ever, there'll be a link to in the show notes. So with that, all it leaves me to say is thanks once again for listening. Take care out there, and until next time, goodbye.